I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. And today we had, yesterday, we had a pretty big video drop, and it's on fire all over Twitter. So Michael's show was earlier on Singularity Labs. If you missed it, go check it out. UFO Jane is coming on after us with Jazz Shaw, who happens to be here as well. We put together a panel to talk about this new video drop, different opinions, different perspectives. What did we learn from it? What do we need to wait for? You know, there's a lot of things to go over. We're going to keep it as respectful as we can. And have as much fun as we can. So we've got an awesome panel, and we'll see if some more stop in. But as they do, we will be just having a cool discussion. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in everyone here. I'm not going to do individual introductions because I think everybody knows who these guys are. We got Daniel Miller, Zach Seichi, Jazz Shaw, and Jeremy McGowan. So gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your time, and let's get into it. Let's not screw around anymore. I'll go ahead and sort of defer to McGowan first, and then maybe we'll hit Jazz Shaw because I know Jazz definitely had some questions for Jeremy, but only because Jeremy has a half hour here. So Jeremy, let's get into this video, my friend. What did you think?
It's a video.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I think.
Data?
It's a video.
Yeah. Okay. Or just the video.
It's just a video.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
All right. Show's over. Show's over, everybody. That's it. Congratulations.
Thanks
we figured it out.
Everyone,
we figured it out.
No, I think this is
on Friday.
I think this is exactly what happens on UFO Twitter. You know, word gets out, something's coming. It gets shown to a couple people behind the scenes before it's released. It gets super hyped. People are saying, hey, somebody's risking their lives for this thing. And then when it comes out, it's a potato. And that is what we have here is we have a visual potato. And I put out a video earlier today talking about this briefly. And if you want to get down into subjective understandings and biases and assumptions and things like that, this was taken by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol on the Arizona-Mexico border. We know that this is a drug route. We know that the cartel are using drugs to smuggle heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. We know this, right? This is most likely, and I'm not going to make any definitive statements because I put out a video saying why I did it and the reason for it, but this is most likely a smuggling drone. It is probably a custom built smuggling drone that the CBP was looking at, because if you're looking at FLIR, everybody thinks that FLIR shows hot objects and cold objects, and it does not do that. What it does is it shows a gradient or a range of different measured temperatures based on the input of a median temperature. So if you're the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and you're out typically hunting for I don't know, humans with a body temperature of 98.6 degrees, you're going to be looking for 98.6 degrees. Now, if you set it for white is hot and black is cold, then anything that is above 98.6 degrees is going to show up white. Anything that is below 98.6 degrees is going to show up black. Or if black is hot and white is cold, whatever it is, right? But it doesn't mean that it's hot. It doesn't mean that it's going to burn your hand if you touch it because it's white. It just means that it's hotter than the median programmed temperature that was set into the FLIR camera. That's all it means. So when people are saying, well, it can't be a drone because the motors aren't hot. Well, a 98-degree motor is still cooler than 98.6 degrees, and that's still pretty damn hot for an electrical motor, especially if you've got a couple rotors going over top of it, constantly blowing cool air on it. So it fits. Technically, it fits with all the assumptions of what I would assume to be a drone aircraft on an IR video.
Jazz, any thoughts?
Yeah, I watched Jeremy's video earlier today and tweeted about it. And by the way, great job, Jeremy.
Thank you.
That was I think it's very informative for everybody who
Hey,
is a
Jazz, real
layman.
quick. I'm sorry. Do you have your mic turned down?
Not that I
Okay.
know of. It
Okay, it
seems to be
sounds a
on
little low.
maximum.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, we can hear you. Just go ahead. I just wanted to. It was a
Okay.
little lower, but that's cool.
Yeah. I'll try to speak up a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, Jeremy's video I thought was really informative. I think people should watch that. We come at it from two different areas. He's got a very technical angle. I have the military angle, and I still have a few tabs pulled up. The video was supposedly taken by an R-26 surveillance plane. And I went and looked and tried to find surveillance video taken by R-26s of that generation. And it's certainly still possible. Certainly is. I've only had like an hour and a half to even look at this. But I will tell you, the HUD feed on this, I could not find a match for the HUD feed for the systems being used on R-26s. It was close, but it wasn't the same. And that made me wonder. Now, this could have been another generation that nobody's put anything out. We don't know. It's possible. But the HUD feed you see around the corners, it's not the same as the HUD feed that I see from the R-26 surveillance video that's already out there and there's a bunch of it because that plane is used extensively to track drug runners, as Jeremy said, and coyotes and smugglers and things on the border and in other areas, and it changes generation by generation. But also, as the video tracks along, and it goes on for a long time, there seems to be, and Jeremy, feel free to jump in and correct me.
Sure.
You can see there's it's not high quality, but you can see the ground, and we're all watching this right now. There's a certain level of resolution, and it's like, oh yeah, that's definitely territory. That's ground. Here's some things we can see. And then there's the rubber duck.
Mm-hmm.
When the rubber duck comes in, I'm sorry, and again, I hate to keep deferring to Jeremy. Feel free to swat me down. That system, even if you ignore the discrepancies in the HUD feed, it's like the duck is way less distinct than the ground and the other things that you're seeing. And generally, the rest of the videos I looked at for R-26 feeds, it's if you see something tracking in the air, you get pretty much the same resolution as what you're seeing on the ground. And I'm not saying this is what it is. We don't know yet. Jeremy's absolutely right. Somebody's going to have to spend a lot of time and money and get the source codes for everything and go examine it. But when I see something where the resolution is so crappy compared to everything else in the background, I immediately wonder, was that inserted? So one possibility is, worst case scenario, and I'm not saying this is the case, it was inserted. The other possibility is that the camera was struggling because it was something moving pretty quick over the surface. And yeah, it could have been a quadcopter that was carrying drugs. And I do agree with Jeremy. We do not have any proof of this. We cannot say definitively. But holy cow, that's the most likely place in the world where cartels are going to be using drones, as we already know they do, and we bust people all the time doing it, that are just flying drugs over different areas and, other illicit contraband and dropping them. And if I have to go with what's the most likely explanation? Is it aliens? Or is it the drug cartels bringing stuff over the border in this area where they run drugs all the time? I'll just say I'm kind of leaning a little bit in one direction more than the other. That was my initial take, Luis.
Okay. Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you. Jeremy, did you have a rebuttal to what Jazz said?
No, I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
The idea of inserting that into the video, it honestly never crossed my mind, but it makes a lot of sense because the focal resolution and the focal clarity of the terrain is pretty consistent. But like Jazz says, when the object comes into view, it's a potato. Now I know that there's going to be 1,000 people out there that go, "Oh my God, it's gravitational lensing due to the propulsion system of a UFO."
Oh, clearly.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, those are only done by the dolphin-powered UFOs, and this is obviously not big enough for a dolphin.
Well, thank you for pushing the merch. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm pushing the merch right here.
I know you are, Jazz. You always do. That's why I love you. Earth versus Uranus. Aside from the rubber duck footage, a leak by the name DMC Muscle Wolf leaked recently, and no one is talking about it. Please ask the panel. Thanks. We can get to this question in a little bit, but let's just. I want to stay focused on this video for right now, but we will definitely try and get back around to it. Thank you for the $5 donation. Okay, so Zach, we were talking before in the green room, as I guess it's called in the industry, since we're an industry show now. Where do you want to start, or do you have anything to add to what Jazz or Jeremy said?
Nothing to add. Honestly, I hadn't thought of the idea that something could be inserted into this video. I think what Jazz pointed out there, that's pretty smart. It hadn't occurred to me. Obviously, the first thing I jumped to in my brain was not gravitational lensing, or anything like that. Based on everything that I've seen, all of the talk on Twitter, various people looking at this video, whether it's Jeremy or Mick West, I gotta say, I'm leaning in the same direction that I think that most of us are leaning in, which is that this is probably prosaic. This is probably a drug run. Now it could be aliens running the drugs. No one's thought of that.
Cartels.
I stand corrected.
Right?
It could be dolphins running the drugs.
Could be the dolphins doing it. So, we don't know enough information is what I'm trying to get at. I don't know. I think it's interesting that, the guy who was sitting on this video for so long that he, I saw that interview that he did with Sean. He seemed really convinced that this video was a lot more than what I think it is. And that's kind of the danger of like when you sit on something for this long, just looking at it in kind of an echo chamber, because I don't think that this video is going to be the one to change the conversation. But
No, and
can I tag on what Zach said just for one brief thing?
Definitely.
That whole thing about sitting on it for that long, and that's something when I was watching Jeremy's video today, and again, please go watch it if you haven't. He does a really good job. It occurred to me, the question that I brought up about the HUD stream, if you've been sitting on it for that long, and I went and I've only had like 45 minutes to search. You've been sitting on this for a month or more. Couldn't you have gone and found, I don't mean anybody to talk about this specific video.
Yeah.
But couldn't you have gone and found an RC-26 pilot and said, ask them, is this what the HUD stream looks like today? because maybe it is. I'm not saying it's not, but it doesn't look like the HUD streams that I found. You know, the data doesn't match up around the outside of the screen. The heads up data is just, that's not what it looks like from the R26 system, unless it could have been upgraded or changed. That happens all the time. But I think we've had so many good bits of pilot testimony from like the Nimitz encounters and things, and the guys that talked about the HUD streams on those. And it's like, here's what this number means. Here's what this number means. Here's this. Here's this. Well, there's a ton of J26 pilots out there. If you've been sitting on this for a month, couldn't you have gone and found a pilot to say, okay, I want to jump in with you, and I'm not going to talk about whether or not the rubber duck is a UFO, but I was running this gear for ages, and yeah, here's what this means. You know, here's what all these numbers mean. And the numbers don't shift equally. And this is one that Jeremy and I can go into later when we get a little more free time and watch them. You can see some jumps in the stream numbers, like where the altitude, where the video seems to be completely smooth, but I found 2 spots already where the altitude changed by like 1,000 feet in one frame. And I was like, maybe that happens. Maybe that's a thing.
It could be GPS glitches. GPSs are notoriously crappy, especially in areas like that, where you're in hilly terrain and you're in a moving aircraft and things like that. So unless it's ground track GPS that is like low altitude alert, it's not going to be that accurate.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear from a pilot about that. Is all I was saying.
I just saw a jump from 3,600 to 3,900 as you were talking about it. And Jazz, I gotta say, the fact that you pointed out that the green information that we're seeing on the heads up display is a little different from what you found of an actual version of this camera system is amazing, because it's actually making me look at those letters and how it almost looks like they're placed there. As I'm looking at it,
it's
complete
close,
speculation. It's close, and we're not 100% sure about this. And by the way, I guess we should preface this entire conversation with, like, this is a perfect opportunity to learn and to just sit back, relax, really digest what you're looking at, and then try and come to some conclusions. But honestly, we've got to wait at least another month before we can definitively say one way or the other that this is something that fits that other folder, that other category.
It's going to take longer than that, definitively. Because first off, we can't analyze the video as it comes off of YouTube. The compression
is insane.
No, it's not great. It's definitely not great. But John Greenwald is trying to get the metadata for this, which would
be what we need.
That's what we need. And if we can get that, and then we can have that analyzed by a photo analyst, I think a month, okay, well, let's just say a year, right? But in the meantime, like, we could still use it as a learning opportunity. And I want to just give a proper thank you for putting this out, NYUAP. I know you're getting a lot of slack for it. I know a lot of people are busting your balls. You tried to vet this the right way. As far as I could tell, I'll be 100% honest with everyone in the chat. I just learned about this yesterday from Vinny when I popped on his show.
Me too.
I didn't know that this was something that was going around on Reddit, or this was a rumor, or sort of like a buildup to this drop. So for me, I'm just looking at this as I would look at any other video drop from anybody else that is out there. So,
I won't say who, but about 3 months ago, give or take, I was shown a clip of this video before it was talked about. And I came to the same conclusion about 3 months ago as I'm sitting on now. But I will caveat this by saying that shows my bias, because I have not digitally forensically analyzed this. I haven't used morphology. I haven't used past Fourier transforms on this. I haven't, done low definition range conversion to binary and then looked at a pixel density and things like that. I haven't done any of that. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to, because that takes time and money, of which neither I have.
And Luis already pointed out, you can find any number of spots in there where the numbers in the HUD stream suddenly jump, and it takes time and money if you don't have access to the original source data to go and analyze it frame by frame and look and say, hey, when that made that jump, what did the video do? And that can be done, but it's an expensive, time-consuming process.
This is not
Jeremy's
cheap.
absolutely right. There's a wealth of data that could be found by doing that, but somebody has to be willing to spend the time, money, and resources to go and do that.
Could I say something?
Yeah, go for it.
So it's really just time. There's some freeware out there that you can use to perform analytics on video. It's called the Physics Toolkit. And you can download it and install it. It likes Linux a lot better than Windows. But, everyone that's made a point has made a really good point. I feel like I'm sitting in a kind of a murder board for a trial with a bunch of attorneys that are like gaming out, how we're going to defend or attack this issue. And really what it boils down to is that we're all looking at it from a non-evidentiary based approach. And we were really opining. Some of us have more expertise than others, but at the end of the day, we have no proof of anything. We have, a video. We have an individual that posted it, and we have no metadata. We have no confirmation from the source of this. So if it's legitimate, I need, DHS or Customs and Border or somebody to, validate that this video is actually theirs. I saw on Twitter, Mick West posted some information from, I think, Flight Tracker or something. And if you could time stripe that video, you could correlate that with that flight path, which has altitude information, and see whether or not that little overlay, which looks like a video game or a flight simulator, and a poor one at that.
In case you were wondering out there in podcast land, that's the voice of David Hiss. And I
Sorry.
wanted to just no, that's fine. It's fine. You popped in a little. I snuck you into the conversation as we were going. Bottled Water with a $10 donation. Thank you so much. He says it's not interesting. It's not a zip line or balloons. Possibly, maybe you're right on that. Miller, you've been quiet this whole time. What are your thoughts, my good sir?
Yeah, well, a lot of you have kind of already said definitely my own thoughts. I won't even begin to pretend I have any expertise with FLIR or with these, I'm not a veteran. I have not worked in the military with this kind of technology, but just based from a scientific point of view, I think more data is great. I do think when data is being presented to the masses and it's being hyped up as this is a game changer, I think it's unfortunate the conversation then becomes about what they think it's not rather than looking at what it is. And I know there were rumors of some kind of organization that was looking at that, and I do really wonder then if that is true, then I feel like the best way forward when it comes to releases of these things is to release it along with as much analysis and data as possible, because it is, just the plain old video by itself, it is really hard to just come to a firm conclusion. And like David was speaking, now that the Dave Phelps video has the data that's blacked out on the top there is not blacked out on David's video. And so you really can glean a lot of information from that and see probably what exactly Dave was saying, who was flying, but what plane was flying where. And that is something that maybe someone could either FOIA or could contact DHS about, because if you do see something like this, whether that pilot even knew what it was, maybe he did, we don't know the context of the sighting, then is there a report that was made? You know, I don't know the procedures in that, but I feel like the video alone just is one element, but there's a lot more information I think we could be gathering and getting that could help paint in the picture, other than, of course, getting as high fidelity a video as possible.
I did a little bit of work on things like this in the past, not on this, but things similar to this. And in some of my past work, I had to pull up historical research on image recognition through FLIR videos. And I don't know if you guys can see this right here or look at the title of it, but it says robust recognition.
What do you got going?
Put it back.
Hold on, wait. Give me 2 seconds, and I'll get you the bigger screen. There we go.
All right.
Boom.
You can see that.
There we go. Yeah.
All
Robust recognition of ship types from an infrared silhouette.
Yes. Now this is a fairly long report. That is obviously page 1. Page 9 is a neural network approach. This ability to recognize things on video is not easy. It's not easy. This is the United States Navy postgraduate school. This is somebody's thesis in their research program that I had to pull up for some other work. And we're talking about good FLIR systems used by the U.S. military and how the U.S. Navy is attempting to identify not the name of the ship, but just the type of ship based on aerial FLIR images. And they're having to run this through neural networks to get positive identification. So for us to think that we're going to look at this video and ever be able to determine what that is, it's a delusion.
I agree with that part, by the way, but also I would just say I'm less interested at this point in the video, in the rubber duck streaming across. Obviously, there was a plane that was watching, or some surveillance device. Maybe it wasn't a plane. Maybe it was another drone. Maybe it was a satellite. We don't know. They're saying it was an RC-26 that was tracking this, and clearly we're fairly confident. I think this was a video that was recorded over the area that's being shown. I'm still a lot more interested in the data stream.
Right.
I think, you know, we've had other shows in the past where we talked about like the Jeremy Corbell thing, like the radar analysis in the thing where the round thing went in the water, right? I always find the background tech information more interesting. And in this one, and this goes back to what Dave was saying earlier, you know, I look at this and there's a little bit blacked out, but there's not much blacked out. And the data is more interesting than the actual rabbit or, you know, whatever that's going across the screen. Because when you watch that, it's like somebody was up there in probably an RC-26 tracking this for a very long time. Well, that data stream from the HUD, that should have been consistent. Really should have.
Yeah.
When it isn't, I'm sorry. I'm not saying it's bogus. I'm not saying it's not a drug runner. It's not an alien, whatever. We don't know yet. Jeremy's totally right about that. But that raises the hackles in my neck a little bit. That's all I've been saying. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying there's some inconsistencies that I think deserve deeper examination. Is all I'm trying to say.
The only thing that I can say about the data at this point is that, like I said, I was given a version of this 3 months or so ago, and mine had the GPS coordinates that weren't blacked out on it. So I backtraced the GPS coordinates, and then when Mick West posted the flight track today, I kind of compared the two, and they line up. So if it is a fake HUD, then they went to a lot of work to put in the correct coordinates to it. So,
hey, Jeremy, probably months worth of work.
right? I mean, there's that too. But it does line up. And that's, to be fair, that is the only analysis that I have done on this other than personal opinion and bias.
And I'm just, for the record, I'm not saying it's fake. I'm saying I'm on board with Jeremy.
I think everyone's on the same page here. Like, we're not calling this a fake because none of us are experts. We can't give you our wholehearted opinion, but each one of us brings something unique to the table. And so I think when we all get together and we have these discussions, it's a lot more helpful than yelling at each other on Twitter. And so
what a
that's
jerk you are.
I know I'm terrible. Real quick, I got to get to a couple super chats here, and I know McGowan, you got to go, right?
I've got like 10 minutes. I can
great.
Push it.
IceHawk 2K7. Why would an inserted spotted and followed by the camera? Unless you mean it was obvious drone that has been edited to look like something obscure.
Good point.
I don't know. Why would somebody take a Snoopy Team video and purport it to be UAP when it's not?
That's, I agree with the commenter. There was a plane that was following something, unless, oh my God, this was just some random, wow, we're really bored, we'll just like scan over this part of the border. It definitely looked like they were tracking something. But if you have a video of somebody that's tracking something, that does not entirely rule out the possibility that if it was a quadcopter that had a whole bunch of meth on it, you couldn't turn around with, as has been pointed out by other guests here, very easily available software and sort of alter that and make it look more interesting.
Yeah.
And well, not only that, area that was being tracked, that is the biggest drug and human trafficking area in the entirety of the United States. So that's a place where you would have a J-26 up there and they would be tracking things.
Yeah.
So I'm going back again. I've said this 50 times now. I agree with Jeremy. We don't know, but there are plausible explanations where somebody could get a hold of a piece of data of them watching a quadcopter and then say, hey, I could make this more interesting. I'm not saying they did it, but somebody could have. I don't know.
Can I just say that when I joined UFO Twitter, I never expected to be going on a show talking about the possibility of a quadcopter smuggling meth.
Yeah, and also, like Zach pointed this out earlier in our private discussion, if that's what this is, let's say that's what it is. The fact that UFO Twitter got like legitimate DHS footage of drug runners, like that's pretty cool. Like that's pretty cool. Like good for UFO Twitter. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, so and honestly, my personal belief, I think the drone was empty. I think it was on a return because if you look, it's a southbound track. So I think that the surveillance craft is trying to find this thing, find the point of origin. They're not using their anti-drone technology to drop it. They're not blasting it out into the sky. They're tracking it to see who retrieves it. I think that the drugs were already dropped and the cartel probably wanted their super expensive little toy home.
Damn, I mean, if the flight time is, how long is this video? It's about an hour long. 59, yeah, it's an hour long. If the flight time's an hour to get there and a flight time an hour back, that's a hell of a sophisticated drone.
No, you change the batteries out. When you drop off the drugs, the guy that's picking up the drugs is swapping a hotspot battery, putting it back on, and they're flying back on a pre-programmed class.
An hour flight time is not something out of the realm of possibility for you to buy commercially.
No, hell, I built one. Yeah. I've got one that'll lift a 14-pound bowling ball and keep it airborne for 45 minutes.
Oh, Jesus, you should film that.
Jeremy is smuggling drugs. I just want to say it now.
He does live in Vegas.
Called government. Jeremy is smuggling drugs.
Jazz, true story. I actually built this drone to be autonomously beyond line of visible sight piloted. So I programmed in a flight path on it. I had a little claw on the bottom of it. And the idea behind this drone was I could send it up and drop toilet paper on my buddy's house about 10 miles away.
I mean, don't be surprised if the cartel comes knocking on your door here in a few days,
Oh, he's
just
toast.
wondering if they can employ you. I saw with another $5 donation. He says the only quote drone I would accept as a possibility would be a custom blimp style helium-filled drone with the propulsion underneath it out of view.
Yeah, sure. If this was 1994.
Sure.
Mm.
Well, you have to keep in mind this video isn't showing, one of the what they call observables. It's not going hypersonic speed. It's not making crazy.
Yeah.
It's not breaking the laws of Newtonian mechanics. If you had a video showing that, I think it definitely would be catching a little more of attention, but it's not. So I feel like it's harder to. I mean, it's, I know Occam's razor is a dirty word sometimes in the UFO community, but at the same time, if it's moving in a relatively regular way, I feel like then the onus is on the community to figure out why it's not something regular or prosaic.
Yeah. I cover this on my beat, and the drones. I'm not going to say that the ones you go down and buy at Walmart for less than $200 can do that.
No way.
But trust me, the technology has gotten so much better than that. And I'm not talking going all the way up to Predator that, our government uses that are fixed wing jets or anything. And those are technically drones. But no, there are drones that go a very long ways and carry a good amount of weight. It's been improving all the time. Yeah, it's expensive. But if you're a drug cartel that's selling $50 billion of coke every year, you can afford the best drones there are out there. So I disagree with the commenter who said that. There are definitely drones that do that.
Yeah, and they're all from China.
I mean, is there any?
Most of them are, or they have Chinese chips in them.
Yeah.
Is there any good argument that's been put forward by anybody to say that this is anything other than prosaic? Is there? I'm not aware of any that I've seen so far, like a great argument to say this thing is doing something totally non-terrestrial.
I haven't heard anybody. I mean, I think Lou Elizondo also tweeted, somebody had tweeted it to him, or he made a comment on it that he didn't think it was anything, out of this world. I did hear there's a rumor that Mick West is in the chat. Maybe we could get Mick in here. I'll send him an invite, see if he wants to pop in, because he does love paying attention to the show sometimes. He won't admit he likes it, even though he likes the show. Artisan Tony with a $10 donation. I have not heard an estimate of object size. Any ideas here? That's a great question. Let's start with George, just because he's popped in and we haven't heard from George yet. What do you think, bud?
Well, in the description, it's posted that it's supposed to be 5 or 6 feet. Now, I don't know how they arrived at this conclusion, but if that was anywhere near true, that seems like pretty large for a drone. What do you guys think?
I think the only true way to, we have all the data that we need. Well, no, we almost have all the data that we need to be able to get an estimation on the size of the object. What we need is the horizontal and vertical field of view of that camera. We already know what the distance from the camera to the ground is. Then by looking at the field of view at the camera, counting the number of pixels that this object covers, we can determine the size of the object. But nobody's done the math yet, because we don't know what the field of view of the camera is, because we don't know what system it was that recorded the video.
Right. I think we also need to know how far it is from the camera, though.
We would be able to figure that out through the motion and looking at the different aspects, because you're going to see distances between the aircraft and the ground, and you're going to see the ground track and the distance to ground. And then when a hill goes over, you can measure the difference in the size of the hill and how many pixels it takes over with the steady state of the drone as it doesn't change in the number of pixels. And you can, trigonometry it backwards to find out what the actual size of the object is without having to know the distance between the object and the camera.
But everything Jeremy's talking about requires a huge amount of effort, and it's not cheap. And he pointed that out in the video he did today. This can all be done, but nobody, as far as we know, and I trust Jeremy before me, nobody has embarked on this. That's the limited amount of data that we have available without having the original source and finding out and talking to pilots about, the HUD stream and all that. We could at least get that much, but that's a lot of work and it's not cheap.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to do that,
Well,
I'm
SCU's
not
doing
going to.
that.
Yeah,
SCU's doing that. And that's what they're supposed to do. That's why they manifested, was
Great.
to do that sort of scientific analytics on that stuff. So I think, in reality, right, the universe kind of works the way it's supposed to, in that they ended up analyzing this data, and people who have opinions, just like time immemorial, gather around a bar or a campfire and slug it out over what they think. It's like which football team's gonna win? It's that same discussion. And so everyone's bringing their opinion, but no data. And the government, especially the DHS and CBP and all these guys who do these sorts of data collection on drug smuggling, aren't going to share it with us for any reason. You can't FOIA that data. I mean, so I guess I look at all this stuff and I'm like, it's kind of a Nerf ball, paintball match or something. Until we get data ourselves, we're not going to get anything to prove this. No one's going to give us the data. They might give us fuzzy video or their grandma's testimony, but they're not going to give us, hey, look, I got this stuff from my state-of-the-art sensor system that I bought for $20 billion from Lockheed and shot into space. Why don't you check it out and throw it on YouTube? It's just ridiculous. So they're never going to do that. I work for them. I know. I mean, they wouldn't tell me what I was working on half the time. So all I can say is I want to collect the data myself, because I've come to the conclusion that nobody's going to provide it to me with any veracity or chain of custody that I could trust. Yeah. So I'm going to do it. I've actually got some training with investigation and computers from when I worked at a district attorney's office. And so I'm going to throw my scientific skills, my, Hardy Boys investigation skills, and whatever else I can put together. Hopefully some people who want to help or associate myself with people like Jeremy, who are trying to achieve, actual data collection. And that's what I want to do. That's why I'm, using stuff like this that gives me logging that I could see and save and look at and correlate on a map and a, point in time over time. And, people have already told me, what good is that? And I'm like, well, if I see a spike, then I have a point in time and a place that I can start looking back at. Because nowadays there's all kinds of cameras everywhere. There's people taking pictures all the time. And there's actually websites that you can go to and say, show me all the publicly available pictures in this area at this time, and go ahead and look and see what you could see. I mean, now you can start building a case, right, for us to go to court with in our trial here, because what we're looking at is just, evidence of some shady guy sneaking in an alley into a building that had 100 rooms in it, and someone was murdered in there. And I'm like, well, what is that?
But isn't that the good work that Luis is doing here right now?
It's exactly what we're here
assembling.
For. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys.
Here is saying, "Oh, it's aliens," or saying it's drug runners.
We need to prove it.
We need more data.
Yeah. Alien drug runners.
Well, real quick,
is gathering people that are saying, this is the data we need Let's bring in
Yeah.
more people that know how to identify that data. Let's continue the investigation.
Let
I think a
me
couple more
leave you.
shows like this, Luis could actually go in and say, okay, well, now we've got something substantive. Let's lock onto that. What's up with the HUD? Things like that. I think this is a starting point. It's not an ending point.
Yeah.
Let me leave you guys with one thing, because I'm going to have to go get my daughter from school here. But
Yeah, I have to go too.
there is one thing that every single person watching, listening, and who will see this can do, because it's something that we do when we get information and we see something that's anomalous. Go to NOAA, go to the National Weather Service, request weather radar, not satellite imagery, but go request weather radar, because if there's something big and shiny and metallic bouncing around in the air, it's going to get pinged by weather radar. Now you're going to have verification of flight tracks, you're going to have elevation, and you're going to have speed.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you for the closing thoughts. And speaking of adding another one to the murder board, Mick West has decided to join the conversation.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Mick, I've got to bounce. I got to go pick up my
All right,
daughter.
Jeremy,
But
go do it. Thank you so much.
Talk to you
Enjoy,
soon.
guys.
Thanks, Jazz. Oh, Jazz is sticking.
Jazz is going to stick around for another minute.
I cannot leave when Mick West is.
That's I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, Mick. So, has there been anything that we've said today so far that you disagree with?
I only caught the last 15 minutes or so, because I just finished editing my response video, and it's going to be up on YouTube in like 20 minutes or so once it gets uploaded. But basically, it's not a very interesting video. I mean, it's kind of cool that you're getting like a DHS Border Patrol plane following something, but it's not like a UAP really. It's not doing anything interesting. There's no 5 observables or whatnot, and it looks like it's probably something like a drone or possibly some balloons. I kind of I go a bit more into the balloon camp myself, because it looks so very, very cold, and I'm not really sure you could get a drone to do that. But one thing is that the version that was released had the GPS coordinates, the latitude and longitude, were redacted. But in the version that Dave Fouch put up, he had a 1-minute segment that had those coordinates in, and so I extracted that data from there and was able to plot an actual flight path of the plane and the same corresponding path of the ground track from the coordinates on screen. And you can see from that it's basically it's the old parallax thing. It looks like there's something that's kind of in between the plane and the ground that's not moving very fast, and you're getting this illusion of motion from the parallax. And the number you see on the top right of the screen, the speed up there, isn't actually a speed. It is it's the speed of the cursor over the ground. So a lot of people are saying that it's moving at 120 miles per hour. It's not. That's the speed of the cursor over the ground. The actual object itself is moving a lot slower. So it's a UAP, but it's a boring UAP.
Thank you for doing that.
No,
And mark this date as the first time ever that Luis got Mick West and I on the show together, and I was forced to go, Mick, you're right.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, that's what I've seen so far. I don't have a definitive answer all the way, but it looks, there's a lot of questions, and the points you're bringing up are ones we discussed earlier.
Right.
And they're all valid. We don't know for sure, but yeah, there's a lot of room to go. I'm not going all the way to Seagull, Mick, but it's could be very prosaic. Yes.
Yeah, and even Lou Elizondo said, in the article in The Sun today, there's a quote from Lou Elizondo where he said he might just be a bunch of balloons. Yeah. So if you got Elizondo saying that, then I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's particularly compelling.
Drone, couldn't it? I mean, couldn't it be a drug smuggling drone?
It could very well be. I mean, the only issue is it doesn't really look like one. It looks kind of more like a blob type thing with something sticking out the top. It is. The video is terrible. It's the usual low information video. So it could be a drone, it could be balloons, it could be something else. I'm not going to rule anything out, but
I mean, well, my point on the video was I thought this was a great learning opportunity. you know,
Sure.
to just discuss something like this. And because my first question was, you know, and I know you disagree with the 5 observables to a point, like it doesn't display any of these 5 observables that we have.
It displays one of them, the difficulty of being observed, and that it's
right. Fair. All right. So it nails 1 out of the 4. But yeah, I think you understand what I'm saying. Like it's you know, like I think it's a great opportunity. I feel bad for the guy. I again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the context of the build up to this video release. You know, apparently it was built up as this game-changing video. But I do feel bad, you know, like it sucks to hold something back, put it out, and it kind of gets shit all over. So from that aspect, I sympathize with a human.
I don't feel too bad for him because he was all over Twitter basically telling his critics to eat a bag of dicks once he uploaded this video. So I don't feel that bad for this guy.
Well, also, it's like if you're doing a science, if you're doing your doctorate, you know, and you're doing your research for your dissertation or whatever, you're collecting data. You're not hyping up the data before it's released. You just release the data, and that's what, you know, so it's just not the right, you know, and this is the criticism with Jeremy Corbell too. It's like, this isn't entertainment. This is, I mean, if it's real, this is a really big deal, right? Let's not trivialize this just for entertainment purposes. That actually, if it's what some people are purporting it to be, then it's, you know, kind of changes a lot of the world. So let's just let the data speak for itself. And I feel like when people lean into the entertainment value of it, it's because the data doesn't speak for itself.
Right. Well, it's real quick. I wanted to just say, like, Bradley Voorhees had a $10 donation earlier. Thank you so much. By the way, I'll be sending you a link in here in a couple minutes. But he was saying, you know, in his opinion, like it's definitely a real video, only because it's so boring. You know, like it feels like a DHS video. It's so long. It's so just.
If you were gonna fake something, then you would you'd do something more interesting.
Exactly. And then IceHawk with a $5 donation. We should be able to resolve the rotor arms or propeller shrouds if it was a quadcopter, and I agree with that. And I think that'll be resolved once. Hopefully, John Greenwald gets the metadata on this, and maybe we could get a clear version of it. But I kind of agree with what we've all kind of been saying here. What were you about to say, Mick?
I don't think there is a better version. I think what you're seeing is probably pretty much as good as you're going to get in terms of resolvable detail, because it's a blob. If there was a bit more detail, you'd better see at least some shape of the arms or something, but it's just going to be resolved into a slightly clearer blob.
Right. Yeah, which doesn't really resolve much. Well, hey, man, you know, like, what you want to hear something great is we were talking before the show with Zach, and Zach was like, you know, I was like, well, what would you do if you had a video like this? He's like, well, this is going to be very unpopular on UFO Twitter, and I totally agree with him. I don't mean to throw you under the bus here, Zach.
No, it's all good. I would say
he was like, I would send it to Mick, and I'd have Mick look at it and say, hey, what's your opinion on this? Before I dropped
it to everybody, though.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, why is this video being kept back? Like, you know, why didn't you just release it a few days ago? It's a bit suspicious, really. You know, he's getting like Dave Fouch to analyze it and then come out with a video. He should have just dropped the whole video and like let people figure out what it was. Because people would have done.
As you have pointed out, just upload it to Dropbox and let people have the raw video. I mean, I don't understand the point really of sitting on it for months and then waiting for people to analyze it and all this stuff. Okay, the video's out now. Where's the accompanying analysis that was supposed to be? You were waiting on the analysis, but it's not here. So why didn't you wait longer? Like, nothing about the way that this is all played out makes any real sense. If this was something really extraordinary.
Yeah, it's a lot of hype.
It just doesn't. It's a lot of hype, and anytime these hype games are played, it tends to end this way. I hate to say it, but it just does. And here we are. And you know, I think I agree with Luis. I think that this is a good learning experience for the UFO community. It's like, this is what happens, guys. Like, we probably shouldn't listen to people that come out and say, I've got something that's so definitively amazing. Just wait. And here it is, and it's on YouTube, and it's a blob.
To be fair to UFO Twitter, though, I think they've been all over this.
It's
you know,
true.
for the most part. Like I think everybody in UFO Twitter, for the most part, has been pretty reasonable as to what we're looking at. Maybe
true.
some have expressed themselves in a lot more aggressive ways, you know, by eating a bag of dicks or whatever.
Twitter,
but
man.
you know, but that's UFO Twitter, and that's why I try to just never even engage. It's pretty rare. I do every once in a while, but it's just not worth it, man. Like I'd rather have a conversation with people than do this you know, limited character back and forth that gets nowhere other than just getting people to block each other. You know, and again, you know, like I sympathize. I feel bad. I do. Like I always feel bad when people get roasted that hard in public. It's never fun. But you know, hey man, lessons learned. You move on. You move on and go from there. But there was Mick. Do you got to get out of here? I don't want to. I feel like this is an impromptu show, and
I'm just waiting
I'll
for
give
my
anybody the
video to finish
opportunity.
processing.
Okay,
but I will get out of here though, because I gotta upload my video and write the description and stuff, and then get on.
All right,
but
so
yeah,
well,
boring, real video, boring video.
Well, I have a question for you, Mick. What video analysis tools do you use, or if you don't want to share that, what would you recommend for just the average
depends what I'm doing. I use a program called Video Loop, which is just a way of like looking at videos. You can sync two videos together and compare them and stuff like that. Zoom in on areas. Just a very fun little thing. I use Photoshop a lot, just because there's a lot of image processing tools. You can create turn the video into a smart object, and then you can apply all the different filters directly to that. It's a little slow, but it gives you the most variety of filters.
Have you used the GIMP software, the freeware version of Photoshop?
I haven't used it. I mean, you can do a lot of the same stuff with GIMP. I'm not sure if it has video processing. It probably does by now.
No. Well,
I use Photoshop pretty much exclusively because I've just used it, all my adult life, basically.
Yeah, Adobe diehard. So, have you used that physics toolkit at all? Are you familiar with that? The video analytics?
No, I haven't really. I mean, you use it for things like measuring the fall rate of things and acceleration rates and 3D stuff. But I will do stuff like that by hand rather than something like that, because it's quite rare that you can actually kind of lock onto you get a high enough quality video that you can actually use it. So it usually ends up being easier simply to do it by hand, doing the actual measurements.
Right. And I've seen a few of your videos. You are pretty educational, like you walk us through pretty step by step on that. Is there somewhere you learned how to do that, or is that just something you taught yourself?
Just picked it up along the way, really.
Right.
Got an background in video graphics and stuff from being a game programmer, so I understand the basics, all the mathematics and whatnot. So, but yeah,
great.
There's no.
I was just curious about that because I didn't know, and to me it's like a veil or a curtain, and you're kind of the Wizard of Oz back there doing these things and making these pronouncements, and I'm like, okay, what's share us the information, share with us how you're doing it, what the tools are.
I try to do that.
I think you do, but I just wanted to ask more questions because
it doesn't come across on Twitter, obviously, because I just get the small little momboats, but it's something I want people to be able to replicate the work that I do. So this is why I'm always holding up this diagram and telling people they can do the math on the Go Fast video. It shouldn't be based on your expertise. Like quite often you get someone who comes along and says, "I'm an expert. I know exactly what's going on here," and then they'll tell you something, but they won't actually explain how they actually know it, and they just expect you to trust you. I try to explain to people, like with the issue of the speed indicator on this one video, in the corner of the screen it says speed. Some people say it's the speed of the object, but you can tell it's not. And in the video I'm posting now, I kind of explain how you can tell that it's not actually the speed of the object.
I want to see that, because before you came on, Mick, I was one of the people that was raising the question. Have you already looked into the J26 HUD stream? because it looked inconsistent to me in this video. It didn't look like the ones I was able to find online. Have you already looked into the
I don't
J26
know.
live stream?
It
Because
looks
it
it looked
doesn't look
pretty.
like it matches.
There's a few variants, I think, of this particular system.
Yeah, because there's jumps in it.
There are jumps in it, but they appear to be just like short segments that are missing. The one jump I think is around like 20 or 30 seconds, and it's
Okay, so you did look at that.
Yeah, it's less than an eighth of a second, well, less than 1 second. It's about an eighth, 0.8 seconds, and it looks like just an interruption in the video stream. And you can match up one bit of the terrain to a bit that's further over, but it kind of fades between the two, which is a bit odd. It doesn't look like your normal glitch. It almost looks like there's two separate bits of video recorded separately, and then they switch from one to the other, which is a bit strange. And I know there are other people looking into that.
This was the thing that we were discussing before Mick came on. It's like somebody has to go and spend the time to go and analyze it frame by frame, and for our history, Mick and I have disagreed on many things. Everybody knows this, Dolphin Emperor here, but yeah, that's the information we need, and I hope you're doing that, Mick, because be willing
I
to
went through
everything you find.
I went through the Dave Falch 1 minute segment, and I extracted the GPS data, but that's 1 minute, and it still took me like 20 minutes to do, because you got to type every single number, and sometimes you can't read them because the video is terrible quality.
Process.
So doing that for 40 minutes, I'm not going to do it. And that's not even frame by frame. That was every 10 seconds. So no one's actually going to extract all that data. But you'll be able to get the spiral. It's going to look like a slowly moving corkscrew. And if someone actually did extract all that data, it would basically, the jig would be up, and you would be able to see exactly what's going on, because you would see like a plane circling a slow moving object. But I'm not going to do it for the full video, just because it's days of work, and it's not that important.
I get it.
Fair enough.
Thank you for looking at it, man. So
what do you got, George?
I'm going to go upload my video.
Thanks,
so
yeah.
All right.
I'll see you all later.
Take it easy, Mick. Thank you.
Later, Mick.
Oh wait, I took George out. There we go. Sorry, George. What were you saying? Or was it? I'm sorry if it was a question for Mick.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention to him, but it doesn't matter. Like he did exactly the approach that I was going to do to find the correspondence between that 1 minute of the uncensored video with the GPS and the flight plan 24 ADS-B track. And he's managed to do that already, which is good. But you can go beyond that and just use like the speed and do something like a dead reckoning, where you just keep following the header and the speed, and correct it whenever it corresponds with the next data point of the flight plan. So basically, we do have enough information to recreate that entire thing. So the way to do that, though, I have to extract those numbers. Like, I'm a data scientist, I could easily write they call it a classifier that just gives it the best guess between which digit for each spot on the screen. So you could extract those numbers into like a data file, and then get the full track. And then what that would allow you to do, as he said, is determine if it's actually doing this big spiral, and over the 40 minutes find out like how far the pair of objects actually travel, to get like an actual average speed of this balloon. Because I looked up the weather, and the if it is a balloon, for the Tucson area, it was approximately northwest 10 miles per hour. So you'd be able to tell if it's something that's actually drifting or if it's actually a drone. So I agree, like there's all kinds of doubts and so on, but we can do something like a pre-analysis and at least come up with that. And, if it turns out to be fake, whatever. But if it's not fake, I know it's either a balloon or something that's powered. And I thought that would be interesting and a fun project, because when these things come up again, then the tools will be there that we can do a further analysis. So that's my interest in it, is just like a learning project. And, I have no stake in the output. I'm just like, this is an idea. It's something that we can do. I just want to see what the answer is. It'd be fun.
Yeah.
I have to break off, guys. So
okay, Jess.
I thank everybody for having me onto the show. I think this is really informative, and I appreciate everybody that came, including McWest. It's an important discussion, and thanks for having me. I'm going to be on with UFO Jane tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Cool.
So my whole
In 2
night
hours
is like taken up with stuff tonight. But thanks for having me. And yeah, I find this subject really fascinating. And Luis, you've done a great job assembling people to have a rational conversation about it and say, hey, maybe we don't know yet, but here's the questions we should be asking. And I think everybody should thank you and support the channel and say, these are the questions we have to ask.
Yeah.
And you're doing a good job doing that, man. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Well, I appreciate you coming. I know it was a last second invite, but the video broke during yesterday's interview while I was doing the show, and then tomorrow I wanted to give the whole show to Belinda Leslie because she's got a whole bunch of data that she's bringing. Right. So I want to just open the floor for her. So I was like, let's do it today, and I'm so happy that all you guys were able to answer the call. This is so cool. So,
and if you see a TikTok, remember, there's a dolphin driving it.
As always, Jazz Shaw, you stick the landing, and we love you, sir. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Jazz.
Bye, Jazz.
Awesome. Okay, so we're actually gonna have another surprise guest, and this guy is awesome. I'm gonna keep it as a surprise for you guys. He should be in here any minute, so this will be fun. And before we do that, let me real quick just remind everybody of our little commercial here. I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support. Just support. Anyway, real quick, let's go ahead and reset the room. We're just having a discussion about this new UAP video that dropped from NYUAP of a DHS plane filming something anomalous. Nobody can definitively say one way or another what it is, but I think we can all come to an agreement. I don't think it's going to change the conversation. I don't think it's something my mom is going to just be like, "Oh my God, did you see this?" So either way, man, this is this is a killer conversation that we're having with David Hiss, Daniel Miller, Curious George, who's a friend of the show, and Zach Seichi. We just had Mick West stop by, Jazz Shaw, and Jeremy McGowan. In this hour, we're going to have John Greenwald. He's going to be joining the show, so that'll be cool. He should be in here any minute. In the meantime, I want to remind everybody, please check out this is a bonus show today, so we'll upload it to our podcast, which you can find on Spotify and iTunes. Please, the super chats are always welcome and appreciated. I thank you guys so damn much for all of the super chats and questions that you've put in here. They've been really great to the conversation. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. That way, if we do any special shows like this, you guys don't miss it. So without further ado. It looks like John Greenwald is signed in. He looks like he's just getting himself together. So I'll give him another second. And yeah, that's it. Everybody's links will be down below after the show. Right now, I think I've only got Zach's in there because that's the only time person I had time and 100% confirmation that was going to be here. So once the show's over, I'll make sure that everybody's links are included there so you can check them out. Without further ado, let's bring in one of our favorite gentlemen that always loves to join the program, and he's close to my heart, Mr. John Greenwald Jr., the Black Belt. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing awesome. We're doing great, man. We're having a constructive learning experience here today where we're taking this new video drop, and I think we're all adding sense to it, a little bit of common sense. We don't know the definitive answer one way or the other, but we're just spitballing here.
Who
right?
does?
We're seeing what sticks to the wall and then going forward from there. But we're taking it as a learning experience instead of an experience to yell at each other, So John, what do you got for us, man? Because you've been also dropping some amazing stuff, which I haven't been able to catch up on. I'm trying to play catch up from a week-long vacation that I had, and I have not been able to catch up on anything for the last week and a half. The floor is yours, sir. Where do you want to start?
Well, I appreciate it. Well, actually, while you guys, I was trying to listen as much as I could to you guys. I knew you were doing the show, and all day, including part of yesterday, I had reached out to the guy that's been kind of teasing this, and Andy over there at what's the handle?
NYUAP.
Yes, thank you. And so reached out and offered, because it seemed like he was having trouble with YouTube, and then the file was like 480p, and so not to get boring technical, but that's not what anybody wants to see, where you just have like big fat pixels, flying across the screen. So I had reached out and I said, hey, I can offer to host the raw file for you. I mean, I pay way too much money for these servers, and always love to offer that to people to take advantage of that, because these servers are there. And
that's awesome of you.
Oh, well, thank you. No, that offer is always available to anybody who needs it. So I had put it out there, and it just kind of became this. It was very problematic to get this big video, and then they said that the high def version was now on YouTube, and it was still incredibly compressed. So to speed up the story, through today, finally got what are considered the source files. Now, out of respect, what I can say is that I did give my agreement before getting them that I would redact what they asked me to, which was identifying location information and putting a watermark, because he was having problems getting me the file that he had. I don't know why. So he said, I'll get you these source files from someone else, but you need to XYZ, which I absolutely complied. And those just went online about 10 minutes ago. Okay. So that's why I had texted you, Luis, to just give you the heads up, because I think I can answer at least one of the things you guys were talking about, which was the jump at about 29 minutes in. Now, what I can say is the two source files that were used were spliced together. And hey, Gary, how are you? So what happens is that when you splice the two files together, we'll call those the leak. So those were the two original files that came out. Those were what I got. That splice created a few frames dropped. So whomever leaked it, whoever that source is, when they exported those two videos, they are missing. I think Mick West said it was like 0.8 seconds or whatever. Well, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, that's the jump. So there are two files. So what I did was created a, essentially what he did, but I went to the source files to make sure you maintain the exact quality of those videos. And that's what I put online. So minus the redactions, which I was asked to do, and the watermark image, the export is now available for download, and it's about 4.5 gigabytes in size. Wow. So the rumored 8 gigabyte file, again, not to get too technical, and I don't want to take over your show, but what he did was he up converted the original source files to 4K. Now, I've worked in video editing for different cable networks myself, and that's not going to do anything for you except create a bigger frame size and bigger file size. You don't get more quality.
Infinitely bigger file size.
Right.
If it wasn't shot in 4K, then upgrading it to 4K doesn't do you anything.
Doesn't do you anything. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sold that it was truly converted to 4K anyway, because 8 gigs on a 60-minute file.
No way. No way. Right. A 4K 60-minute file would be a terabyte.
Yeah.
Like, it's enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. So that already was, I call it a red flag just because I knew something was problematic with that 8 gig file. So at least I was able to get the original sources. Just to say up front, don't expect more quality than what you're seeing on YouTube. I was let down at that part. And I'm not blaming anybody for that. It's just we want more clarity, and it's just not there. Right. So what you see in that raw, what I'll call the raw download that I had created from the source files, I matched them up frame to frame and pixel to pixel, and it's identical. So I had exported the absolute biggest frame rate that you can. In essence, maintaining the 1920 by 1080 frame size at 30 frames a second. And that's what you get. So it's about a 4.5 gig file. It's available to anybody now. Hopefully my server hasn't crashed yet, because I know there are quite a few people that are downloading it. So that said, that's kind of the update there.
Wow. Dude, that's excellent work. That's excellent work. We were talking about the sort of the artifacts that you see, I guess the snow, if you want to call it, on the framing of this video. Does that look artificial to you?
To me,
any of this look artificial? Any of this?
No, to be honest with you, I immediately didn't go to an artificial frame grain put in or digitally manipulated. Could it be? Absolutely. I'll say up front, though, I'm not skilled enough to sit here and say, oh, this is definitely X or definitely Y. I really don't know. Excuse me. But what I can say is I didn't go down that route. Seeing that raw video, and excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Just seeing the source a video, it wouldn't surprise me if this is actually a genuine DHS Border Patrol video. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out that yeah, it really does check out. What the object is, though, I mean, that is the big question that I think everybody wants answered. And I put in big fat letters at the top and bottom. I'm not offering an analysis at this point. Number one, I'm not skilled enough with the video stuff to really get in there and figure out what the object is. But number two, I'm an archive at heart, first and foremost, and an advocate for preservation. So I kind of went into that mode and just said, okay, look, you want this out there? I'll get it out there for you. And that's the mode that I've been in all day to try and get that thing out there. Now that it's out there, now I can kind of take a deep breath and look at it and go, okay, I'm not jumping out of my seat here that this is going to be world changing. But I don't think it's digitally manipulated at first glance. I just don't think that it's anything extraordinary. Now, will the DHS or potentially the DOD, if it was turned over to the UAPTF, come back to me and say, yes, we consider this UAP? We'll find out. And if you haven't caught on, yeah, I've had a message into them for a little bit now. So I'm looking to see some answers there. And then to cut off a common question on Twitter right now, yes, I do have FOIA cases filed based on the publicly available information to see what I can come up with.
Dude, that's awesome. That's why I love you, John Greenwald. That's why I
love you guys too.
Does anybody have a question for John while he's here?
Yeah. Did you look at the metadata of the original files? Did it seem to be, copacetic?
Yes, and I hope I don't break any gentleman agreement that I gave him, but there is no metadata. So in my opinion, what is being referred to as the source files are not the source files. So whomever leaked it, I believe if I truly did get those digital copies, that metadata was wiped. So would that have told us more? Absolutely. But I want to know what other compression happened in that process, because the compression artifacts, for those who aren't aware, when you look at it, the tallest tail sign is the lettering or the display information on the video. Now, generally in an uncompressed video, your letters are going to be crisp. They're not going to be crisp and then 5 frames later, they're going to go fuzzy and then come back and fuzzy and come back. Those are compression artifacts, and that happens when you take, we'll make it visual. This is your full, raw, uncompressed source file. You take that, edit it, and re-export it. If you don't do it exactly to the same specs, your next video is going to be like this. And that's where all the compression comes from. Most UFO videos, they go to about that. And then that's what we, know and love. So what I saw and what I was told was the original files that were leaked. Metadata is not there, and the compression artifacts are definitely prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the lettering on the video is what stuck out to me. It kind of made me go, man, this feels fake, but it doesn't. You don't think it's fake, and sort of everybody else is sort of on the same page. Everybody thinks it's real. Plus, like, I keep going back to Bradley Voorhees' comment. He's like, in his opinion, it's too long and too boring to be fake. Like, nobody would go through the hassle of doing it. Like, it's just it's so much work.
And generally, the fake video, not to interject there, the fake video would probably be crisp lettering, make it a little bit more official and so on. So the problem with these FLIR videos and thermal cameras and stuff like that is, I mean, you literally could be doing a video of a bunch of balloons, just streaming along and wind and stuff like that. And there are so many variables that come along that could make you think, oh, this is something paranormal. This is something extraordinary. But when you look at the technology used, nothing is perfect. So we may be reading into some of those numbers and then the jumps in the numbers. I think it was Mick, I was trying to do 5 things at once, that had mentioned that could be like a GPS glitch, or maybe Jeremy said that. But regardless, those are all big possibilities that we just had no idea. And the fact that there's so little context to this, so we don't know, number one, is it truly DHS and Border Patrol? But number two, we don't know, like, if the government truly believed that this is a UAP, but rather a drug smuggling drone, which I know you guys already talked about, a drug smuggling drone, and then someone gets and goes, I'm gonna fool these UFO Twitter guys, throw that out there. You never know. There's too many variables, so it's a shame we don't have more. But until then, this is what we got.
Yeah, and so let me ask you this, because you answered one of my other questions. Is that when somebody gets a video like this, what is your suggestion as to what to do with it? Because I think I don't know how I would feel if I got video like this and I thought I was sitting on something more sensational than what it turns out, or what people think turns out to believe it is. But I mean, what would be your suggestion if somebody gets a video like this? How would you go about releasing it?
So if there's anything that comes from the United States government, United States military, there's no copyright. And where I will potentially get myself in trouble, I am an advocate for transparency and preservation first and foremost. I say get it out there. Don't sit on it. Don't hype it up. Don't do anything. Because when you have the knowledge base of, let's just say, a Jeremy McGowan, a Mick West, Dave Falch, all that come from different backgrounds and different points of view, combine all that, put that stuff out there and let people that are much smarter than me analyze it and look at it and start trying to figure out what it is. Sitting on the video and hyping it up, the hype kills me. That drives me nuts. Look, we all tease what we do, and I absolutely do it as well. I am not hiding from that. But when you tease something that you're going to essentially, blow the minds of everybody, that's something I don't do, or at least I don't think I do. I'll have fun a little bit, but generally I'll tease something and a couple hours later I'll put it out there.
Right.
But for doing that for months and stuff like that, it doesn't do this community any good. Because, then you have sensationalized headlines that go along with it, because the UK tabloids love that kind of stuff, and we saw that today, and it's already being covered, which is kind of good. But then when people dig into it and they look and it's not that impressive, and the story has some holes in it and so on and so forth, it just doesn't do any good. So my advice is get it out there. There is no copyright available. I was asked to do the redaction and the watermark, which again was happy to do, and I agreed to do that. But if you're asking John Greenwald, the Black Vault guy, about that, I didn't like doing it and agreeing to it, just simply because this is public domain. You and I and everybody watching this in America owns that. So for somebody to take a hold of it, sit on it, I don't want to say profit, because he's not selling it per se, but obviously creating an aura around this, like, hey, look at me, I've got something that's going to change the world. I don't like that. And it doesn't matter who does it. I just don't like it. Yeah. And it doesn't do the field favors at all.
I 100% agree with that. So we just had Bradley Voorhees pop into the green back room here. So let's bring him on. Bradley, how you doing?
Hey, super, Lou. Thanks for letting me in.
Yeah, man, no problem. Happy to have you here. So you were saying in the comment you had something to say. What do you got?
Well, I think when you look at it, the way there's sort of differential focus changes in it, I think it's definitely not faked. I don't think it's done well enough to be faked. But I think that what you probably have is some kind of guy who fancies himself a whistleblower looking at the DHS video on a screen, filming it with his iPhone. And maybe somebody walked in, or he put it down, or then put it back up, and so he kind of spliced it together, which is why it's missing some kind of portion of the video. It kind of skips. That's probably why it just looks weird, and that's probably why there's no data. There's no metadata to it. But I could be wrong. but I don't think anybody spent any time, kind of trying to fake it or anything like that. I think it's like a drone or balloon. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's good enough to like really be anything. I think if it was a UAP, I would expect any UAP footage to be blurry because of what I think about how UAP fly and things like that. But because I don't expect us to ever have a really crystal lucid, picture of a UAP, especially if it's just like a quantum echo or something. But thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so where should we take this conversation next? Zach, you've been sitting here for a while, and I always love your pontification. So is there anything you wanted to add to either what John or Gary just put out there?
No, I would just say I think this is a great conversation that you are facilitating here. Too often, what I see on UFO Twitter is like people taking something like this and saying we should all wait until the SCU gets their analysis done and this and that, and it might be something interesting, you don't know. Guys, we're all looking at the video, and there's nothing in this video that is obviously like not prosaic, and I appreciate that we're having this conversation where we're just talking about it and being real about it, and having on Mick West, having on John Greenwald, having on whoever, and just being real about what it is without too much speculation. Like I said, it could be alien drug runners, right? That's right. I still think that that's possible. You never know. But this is we're probably looking at something that we probably shouldn't even really be looking at. If we're being real. It is what it is, man. It's a learning experience, like you said.
Right. John, real quick, what do you think of this idea? Oh boy, what was I going to ask you? I was just thinking something that Bradley, this idea of not being able to get a clear picture of a real UAP. Do you think he's onto something there? Just because the technology, let's just say the technology of it is gravity bending, is a wild propulsion system that does something funky to space and time. Do you think a regular Nikon camera will be able to grab something like that?
I mean, I'm very much a nuts and bolts kind of guy, and I would say that in some respect that there should be able to have video or photographic evidence captured. Once and again, the reason I say that is I think that any other entity that is exploring this world is doing so with more nuts and bolts technology. And I know that some people will disagree with me on that, but if we're dealing with an extraterrestrial entity that got here, I think the technology to get here, sure, may be a little bit more problematic to photograph or video for whatever reason and however they traverse the stars. But I believe very much like us, when we send drones and rovers and stuff like that to another planet, I truly think that that's what they're dealing with also. And if they are so much more far advanced than that, this is a whole different show in itself. But if they really are truly just so far beyond the nuts and bolts, they won't come here. I don't believe that they would care about humanity or us or the planet Earth or whatever, that they would be able to traverse the stars and communicate with beings that are much more advanced than us. And so the motivation to come here and explore or communicate or try and reach out or whatever, it just wouldn't be there. And I beat to death the anthill analogy, but I'll use it here. If they are that much more advanced, they are not going to sit and try and communicate with the anthill in the universe. They're going to go elsewhere. So the way I view it is that they are nuts and bolts when they get here. I believe that in that respect, much more advanced nuts and bolts, mind you, but nuts and bolts nonetheless. And I think that, we should be able to capture something, but it's kind of like that that car crash that happens in an intersection. You know, I mean, we all got cameras and we all, you know, are right there to capture it, but you need to be that lucky one that has that camera pointed in the right direction at the right time, or it's over, you know. And I think that that's the nuts and bolts aspect to this, that, yeah, it can be photographed. You just got to get really lucky. And when we see online the cases and the witnesses and so on, there are some people that do get lucky. Not everybody does, though.
Right. I mean, Lou Elizondo says that there is video, that there is like crystal clear, really good video that exists.
Like 50 feet away.
50 feet away. This is not that.
Yep, that's fair.
There's a lot of that's the thing. There's a lot of those types of rumors that are out there. And this isn't against, you know, Mr. Elizondo. This is just against the rumor mill at all. There's always something better that we can't see. Yeah. And then when we finally see it, for example, this one with this 40+ minute, what is a 59-minute video that's been hyped up, you know, and we're told and we're bred to think this is going to be it. This is going to be, you know, mind blowing. We get it and we go, what is that? You know, you're squinting, you're trying to see, and it's not living up to the hype. There's always something behind it to go, yeah, but there's something else. There's something else 50 feet away. There's a triangle coming out of the ocean. You know, there's clear images of the FLIR video. I mean, there's always something else. And that's frustrating, you know, to me as a researcher, because you want to confirm something. You want to just say, look, this is irrefutable. But when the evidence that's hyped up finally comes out and it falls short, there's always a rumor behind it going, but just wait, there's more. You know, it's one of those infomercials, and it gets very frustrating, I think.
Yeah. While I have John here on the spot, can I deviate the conversation in another direction for one moment?
Please do.
I asked you this on Twitter. You didn't answer.
What? Oh, I've been a little buried today. But I'm happy to answer.
Damn you, John, for not answering every question. Damn you to hell.
Have you ever reached out to General Neil McCasland?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't see you ask that, so I apologize. Okay. But no, I believe that a while back I tried to find, when I filed some of the FOIAs on his emails, tried to find some contact information, never did. I will say that I probably didn't spend too much time doing it, because a lot of those guys, they don't want to be hounded. And if, you know, they likely have been hounded a lot. You know, Thomas Wilson, I know, has been asked a lot. And when it comes down to it, you know, I'm not the New York Times or you know, Time Magazine or whatever. So it's very hard for me to start calling people's homes and go, hey, you want to talk UFOs? And that becomes a little bit, you know, difficult. So I know some people do that. I'm just not into that type of journalism per se. I'm not big, you know, I leave that to the journalists, but I do advocate for people to do it that do have that stature and, you know, that name in journalism to reach out. But yeah, so I'm sorry I missed your question, but hopefully
no, it's all good. Yeah, I just thought I would ask. You know, you had put out that thing about McCasland's emails. You weren't able to get them, so
yeah, they're all gone.
Right? They're all gone.
That's so frustrating. And this is a prime example. The Luis Elizondo thing is a prime example. His emails being destroyed. That these records retention schedules in this day and age, in my opinion, shouldn't exist. You know, and what that means is that they should save information. And there is information that is deleted sometimes 2 years, sometimes a year, sometimes, you know, 6 weeks after it's created, per these schedules. And I hate that. And the McCasland thing, look how much we could solve with digging into that publicly, or should be publicly available information pending no classification. Or Luis Elizondo, look at what we can do and solve so many questions that are still unanswered. That if you know, the Pentagon is lying and they're saying what they are and they're attacking somebody, that evidence is gone, you know, and it's ridiculous. So I'm a big supporter of saving all of that, because, you know, I can save 12 terabytes of data on a thumb drive. So with that type of technology, you really can't save people's emails? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's insane. Real quick, Artisan Tony with a $5 donation. Thank you so much. If I buy an ant farm or a beehive, I try to take care of it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that's in reference to, but thank you for
I
the
think it's in
donation.
reference to a disagreement that aliens would see us and just like bail.
Got it.
Like
Got
not
it. Yeah,
tag
okay,
a
that makes
deer or
sense.
something like
Right.
that. I mean, the least they could do is like tag us like we do with to find the migratory patterns of quail and shit, right?
Well, if you talk to some certain people, I'm sure they'll tell you we do get tagged. So so real quick, Daniel, you had I want to get to this Christopher Mellon blog post, and
oh yeah,
I know you you were able to go through it, and I thought it was an important post too, I dig it. But people have been screaming for this Stephen Greer manhunt classified picture leak. I just looked at what it is. We're not talking about it. we're not talking about this. Okay, like that this is not the show for that. What I'll send you guys.
Now you have to explain it.
Okay, well, no, I don't have to explain
You
this.
do. You have to.
Okay, so I'm gonna send you guys the link in the private chat, and then you can go check it out for yourself. It's hilarious. At first, I was like, "Wait, what is this a link to? A website?"
I didn't look at it.
Okay, yeah,
I take that back. You don't need to explain it.
Yeah, I thought you said gray. Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even read it. Oh,
yeah.
I'm
We're
sorry.
not going there.
Never mind.
It's
Matthew.
hilarious, but it
Matthew
is
Riot. I should never trust that guy.
Dude, Matthew Riot is trouble. But anyway, hilarious. So
I was going to say, why don't you post it publicly until I saw it?
Serious. Like this is, even if it's true Earth versus Uranus, it is not serious.
Some
it's something that's nobody's business.
I would really like to
That's
request
true.
a Men in Black memory flash, please.
Yes. Give me a white.
Yeah.
I'll never be able to unsee it. All right, so Daniel, real quick, what did you want to discuss when it comes to what Christopher Mellon said?
Yeah, I think he brought up a really interesting point that a nuanced part of the new office that's going to be created. And I read it this morning when I first woke up, so my memory may not be perfect. I'll probably bring it up while talking about it. But talking about how, while kudos to Gallego, is that how you pronounce it? Because I said it wrong last time. Gallego.
Yep.
Representative Gallego bringing up in the national. I'm in Barcelona now. National Defense Authorization Act in the House, creating that permanent office. He thought that while it was great of him to be talking about it, it might also be not the best way forward, and rather let the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence do it their own way, and not rush them to a specific timeline, and make sure they're involved. And how he is concerned how this new OSD office might instead be a kind of a solution that ends up not being a solution, where the Congress is like, great, we made an office, we did our part, bye, and they walk away. And this office is left behind with people that's under-resourced, under-tasked. He mentions if it's the same staff size as the task force, that there would be full schedule just by sticking to meetings and trying to brief people, and how he has a concern that with the current language in the way it is now, the proper people who need to be in charge in order to actually get the ball rolling won't be. And that it may not still be properly resourced. So it was just interesting analysis from someone who actually has, worked there, been in those halls, and has obviously lots of experience from a point of view that I would never have myself, not really knowing how the more specific nuances in that world work. I think everyone should read it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I also kind of dug the aspect of here's where I kind of, and maybe John, you could chime in on this. I kind of disagree a little bit with Mellon. I do have, I think, higher hopes, although he's got a much better insight to this conversation and what's happening behind the scenes. But I wish he would provide a solution for people to maybe help make sure that it's not underfunded, it's not understaffed, and that it doesn't get ignored. Tell us what to do, Mr. Mellon. Please, I'm begging you. I think we're kind of on the right path of what to do, and that is to call your local and state reps. I mean, still check out our website. We still have all of our templates up. We're going to be adding templates for the UK here pretty soon. Once
Nice.
Gosh, Ben is done. You know, he's on like baby leave right now. You know, so, and he's helps me with the website. But I mean, that's, I think, what the path would be, but I'd love to hear it from Christopher Mellon. But the thing that sort of gives me a little hope is Mark Walker, you know, who's a part of the Terrorism and Counterintelligence Subcommittee, coming out and speaking to this topic and how he wants answers on it and what the hell's going on. And this is, and he's the chair of that committee. Like, that's a brand new committee that we are now aware of that is interested in this topic. So,
and my hope would be that as it blows up, other committees would say, "Hey, I want that briefing too. This is a thing. What's going on?" Right? And so,
nobody wants to be left out.
Right. I think I agree with you. There's parts that I don't agree with, and he seems maybe a little too cynical about Congress. While don't think Congress can get everything done, but there is a power behind having control over the purse strings. You know, do what I say. I'm mandating this. There's a reason Congress, like those committees exist, right? That's supposed to be a mechanism of oversight. And if you don't do it, you don't get your money, right? That's a pretty good motivator. So I'm oversimplifying it, of course, but my hope would be that if they're not getting what they want and they keep checking in with it, that then they would keep pushing and get involved. So my hope is that if that does happen, if Mellon's fears are confirmed, that Congress is saying, "Hey, why aren't you telling this office what we need to know? What the hell?" Right? So,
what do you got, Brad? You said you wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I think that's really sharp. I took a look at the legislation, and the Senate version of it would preserve the existing task force and just fund it and ask for, certain disclosure or certain reports on a certain interval. The House one scraps the old task force and builds this new office. And I was listening to the Singularity lab last night, and Ross Coder was talking about how when he does his investigations, he's quick to infer incompetence before he infers conspiracy. And it made me think about, well, here's the thing, the Navy, right? Maybe some of the reluctance in the government's disclosures has more to do with the Navy not really sure exactly what's going on in their own backyard. And so maybe they're not that keen on telling everybody about all the things that they don't know anything about. And so in some ways, if we were to, it's a step in the right direction to put that office, I think, under the Secretary of Defense instead of the Secretary of the Navy, because then you might avoid some of the conflict of interest where the Navy might want to hide, not exactly, bring something up or talk about. Not saying that the Navy would lie or not hide something, but I think that having that under the Secretary of Defense is a good thing. The thing that really bothers me is that I don't see where NASA's involved. I don't see where Department of Energy is involved, because I think we're talking about technologies that need to be democratized. And my big concern is that all of the technology and all of the research and the value that's there will be completely militarized if it's only the Department of Defense and it's only the intelligence apparatus that has access to whatever they uncover. And I think they're going to lose their to be honest with you too, I'm a retired Army officer, and at the very top brass, most of them are infantry, most of them are cannon cockers, most of them are, tank drivers, and they're not always, and I mean this with all due respect, they're just not always, the sharpest tools in the shed. And so to bring those energy guys in and to bring a diversity of scientists and things like that into sort of the inner circle of where, the directions are chosen and the decisions are made and the reports are sort of drafted, I would really like to see science in the lead, not the Department of Defense. That's if I could have my way. That's all.
John, what do you say to that? We'll go around.
I think it was brilliantly said. The one thing that concerns me about task force or dedicated office or anything like that is the push for classification of everything. So for me, who advocates to try and get that information out, I've been kind of watching that turn from them, authenticating these UAP leaks, which was really bizarre. Now the report is out, other than this DHS thing, which I think is kind of an exception to this. Where are those leaks that have happened and so prevalently leading up to the report? That has stopped, and now there's this aura that they're not going to tell us anything. So for me, it doesn't matter the label on whether it's a permanent office or a task force or whatever. That's the reality of what they're doing, and the reality is also that they're classifying everything. And so that definitely creates a lot of challenges for someone like me who's trying to advocate for bringing this information out, making it public, making it to where it's more led by science versus military. But they are putting the kibosh on that, and they don't want it. And so will that ever happen? Will they ever transfer it to a private entity or a university like they did in the 60s to study the data that they have analyzed? I don't think that they will. I think those days are done. And as brilliant as it was that was just said, sadly, it doesn't look like they're going to lean towards that at all. And the fact that they're making it more permanent in the DoD supports that they want to keep this pretty much as close to the vest as they can.
No, that's okay. I love it. Brilliant analysis. I wanted to. What do you think, George, on what Bradley was saying, and maybe follow up on what John's saying?
It was well said. I agree with all his points. It totally makes sense. You guys hear me okay?
Yep. We hear you okay now. Yeah, you caught up.
I'm not from the U.S., so I'm not as familiar with the workings of your country. But from what I've been here,
non-workings.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. Like, you want to keep it away from, from what I can tell, they have like this amazing inclination to like classify everything by default. So obviously, you want to get away from that. I'm all for transparency and openness as much as possible. I mean, this is for the people, and you definitely don't want them to like get their hands into trying to militarize it or take advantage of it. I mean, this affects all of humanity, so like we should have a say in it for sure. Like, and it should be open to us.
Agreed. David, did you have any thoughts to add on that?
Yeah, I actually have a few. I know all this. Having worked for DoD and Department of Army and all the cool things that I thought, wow, that's really neat. They're not going to let me ever talk about, and it's for a reason. Some of that's not really a good reason when it hits the light of day, but it's still something that they do. And it's just a habituated thing. So I don't ever expect to get any usable data from the government that proves the existence of a UFO. What I want to do is generate that data myself.
Right.
Because I feel like, we're waiting for Godot. It's just going to be forever. And, we're going to wear out John Greenwald with FOIA requests. He's going to be, gray hair, 85 years old, firing off another FOIA for another fuzzy video. And we'll be never closer to the truth until we get the data ourselves. They can't classify data that I collect. It's not their purview to do that. And if they do, I'm pretty sure I have recourse. I can go to court. There's going to be a fight. It's not something that I'll just fold up and say, I've got evidence of a real UFO and you want to shut me down. And I just don't think the government does that. I think that they're just saying, okay, when you've met the standard kind of really wanting to know bad enough that you've gone out and collected enough data to hold our feet to the fire and demonstrate that we're lying to you, we're going to release this stuff. But until then, we don't have any leverage. So we need to collect data ourselves that's not classified, that we can share with each other and other researchers, and use that to make the case to the government.
Sweet.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. What do you got to add, Zach? You're gonna say
Well,
something?
just so I try to think a little bit like outside looking in. What does all of this look like to the average person who is not super into UFOs or whatever? And if I'm looking at it from that perspective, I have to wonder, is the government playing footsie with UAP and talking about this either publicly or behind closed doors and spending money on it? Is that good? I don't know if I'm outside UFO Twitter. I don't know. I have no idea. That like the data isn't there yet, right? Like we are still looking for the smoking gun, and the government has yet to give us a really good reason for why they're playing footsie with this topic. We think that they have something. We think that they know something, but there is not a single thing so far that has come out where I can show it to 10 people on the street and go, hey, UAP are definitively real and they do weird things and it's not prosaic, right? Like there has yet to be that. So when it comes to the government doing anything with this topic, I think it is deeply irresponsible on their part to do anything before saying why they're doing it. So like so for instance, if you're Mick West and you say, well, UAP, whatever, it's just drones, it's balloons, it's whatever, it's glitches. Why is the US government playing with, the UAP language, this broad acronym, when if it were just balloons and drones and whatever? Again, outside looking in, average person who doesn't really care about this stuff would also have the same question. What the hell is this all about? We have yet to have that one piece of data. So to David's point, I agree. We need to get something in the public realm that gives us some leverage with the government, because the government seemingly is never just going. Look, they have the data on the Nimitz incident. Like, it's not a question of if. Someone there knows whether or not what Fravor and Dietrich saw was anomalous or not. Someone knows, period. And they're kind of fucking with us on this by here's a UAP office, here's a UAP report, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to tell you why we're using this acronym. You know what I'm saying? Outside looking in, is it good or is it bad that the government's doing this? Outside looking in, I don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a can of worms. It's a can of absolute worms. Mr. Jason Ladd with a $20 donation. Thank you so damn much. So you guys, we've hit up the end of the second hour of what we normally do a 2-hour show. I know people got families to get to. I asked people to do this last second. So I appreciate all of your thoughts, all of your wisdom, all of the things you said. I thought this was one of my favorite conversations that has ever been had on this show, because days like this are perfect for what you kind of hinted at, David, as sort of a murder board. Let's get the best minds together, come and just sort of look at this from both the prosecution and a defense sort of standpoint, and see what would be the best angle of attack to determine what we're looking at.
Lewis, thanks for providing the venue for that to happen, man. No, because it wouldn't be happening without you kind of being the hub in the middle of this. So I appreciate it, and I think it's a real service to people who are interested in this topic.
Hello?
Yeah. Oh,
are you guys still frozen?
No,
I can hear him. I think Luis may have froze.
Oh no.
Daniel, take over.
Okay, so I just want to say that I really appreciate the tone that Lou and Mike and all these guys create. They create a safe space for people to like bring their videos and share their stories and that kind of stuff, because even though like somebody might in a microcosm sort of look at this last video and go, oh, it's bullshit, instead of doing that, it makes a lot more sense to me to create a safe space where everybody can put everything in there. Because if we look at everything, you know, if you're only focused on the tree, then you miss, because if you can look at all the data and see the forest, you might find things in the context of all the rest of the information that's valuable. And so I think it's important not to, you know, be douchebags and attack people when they say something or show something that maybe we don't agree with, but having everybody have, you know, the kind of feel safe enough to, you know, put out what they have, and then everybody be graceful enough to take it for what it's worth and then put it with the rest of the shit so that we can all see, like, you know, kind of what's playing out. I think that's the way you're going to find people who are willing to come forward and corroborate some of these videos. You know, like they'll say, oh, well, I saw this, you know, and they'll feel safe to come out and do it. And then maybe you get the corroboration that you wouldn't otherwise get. And the last thing I just wanted to throw out was for, I just dropped a podcast episode called Disclosure Supremacy. And it's about how you compete to get government contracts to be on the team that is going to do the data collection and all that stuff for this new office if it's started. So I give you nuts and bolts. Sweet. how to get your organization registered with the government, you know, how to get security clearances, and how to actually be on the team that does that, how to build. Because I think the UFO Twitter space, when you look at it, they're going to need investigators. So grabbing Ross Cothart, you know, grabbing all your contacts, grabbing Lou so he knows who to get, you know, scientists and physicists and all that kind of stuff. You could put together a dream team and compete for those contracts. Yep. So if you want to go check that episode out, you might like it.
Yeah, well, please, before you go, tell everybody where they can find that episode.
Oh, it's just, you can look on my website, or you can get it anywhere you get a podcast. Sonic Gravity is the podcast. It's sonic-gravity.com, www.sonic-gravity.com. That's my website.
Awesome. Well, Bradley, thank you so much for sharing the insight. I love the tie, and we'll see you later.
Thanks, Lou.
Yeah, my pleasure. David, thank you so much for the comment before. Sorry I froze in the middle of it, but I got the gist and I appreciate it. Real quick, before you go, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at hissing UFO, hissing_UFO.
Hissing with an H, people.
Yeah, that's the noise they make after they land and start cooling off.
Exactly. All right, David Hiss, we'll see you soon, my friend.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Curious George.
Hey.
Dude, thanks for joining us on the conversation. I truly appreciate it. I always love your perspective in our little Twitter private chat. So, real quick before you get out of here, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Well, on Twitter, hopefully if you search Curious George, you'll find me. It's actually a very long, complicated actual handle.
Well, I'll put the handle. I'll put the handle in the description once the video's over. I'll put a link for everybody that was on the show today.
And I just want to thank you as well for having me on. It was really interesting. I learned a lot. You had some great panelists and very interesting discussions. It was really a great show.
No, it was my absolute pleasure. By the way, it's at George T96559261. George, you got to change that. You've got to change that. But dude, we appreciate you being here, and we'll see you soon, my friend. All right, Zach Saichi.
All right,
Thank you.
It's always an honor.
Here, man.
It's always an honor coming on the show. You can find me at ZCICHY on Twitter, or if you want to listen to my show, projecthuman.fm.
And you've got an episode with Stephen Greenstreet coming out pretty soon too, right?
As soon as I have time, I'll get it.
I can't wait for that discussion because I know it's going to be a good one.
It's a great one.
All right, my man. Well, I appreciate you being here, taking the time, and we'll see you later.
All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, Daniel Miller.
It's me.
It's you, my friend. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. You got your show premiering on our network on Tuesday.
This Tuesday.
We're talking about it a little bit more tomorrow. As far as what the name's going to be, we should have a name for the show by tomorrow. But yeah, real quick, before you get out of here, man, what can people find?
Yeah, right there on Twitter, at Psycop1, SICCOP1. Maybe I should change that too eventually. Yeah, hit me up. We'll talk.
All right, Mr. Miller. We'll see you soon, my friend.
All right, guys. This fun time.
Peace. John Greenwald.
Last,
coming,
but probably least.
Oh man, no, definitely the first in my heart. Dude, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us. Are you going to be able to come hang next Friday? Are you available?
Yep. Yeah. I believe the full 2 if you wanted it. Or one, you tell me.
Yeah, no, we'll take John Greenwald for a full 2 hours. We got a lot to talk about.
That the only reason I didn't get back to you was, number one, I got a little buried today, but number two, I wanted to check my wife's schedule at her hospital.
That's
but
John. No explanation ever,
well,
man. And there's never a pressure either. Just so you publicly know. You
no,
know, if you can
I
do
love
it,
coming on here.
Awesome. If you can't, I get it, man. You know, like, no sweat. All right, yeah. So you heard it here first. Our first guest for the KGRA, our premiere show on KGRA next Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our guest will be John Greenwald. So tune in. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great way to kick off the show. And yeah, man, I love your work. Love that you were here. Love that you were able to share your wisdom. And
I feel like it was I butted in, but I really appreciated the invitation, and it all kind of came down during your show when I was finally able to complete everything, so it worked out perfect. And by the way, congratulations on your new KGRA spot. So I'm honored to be the first guest.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a good time. I can't wait to build the audience, get some new folks in here, and grow the show, you know. And yeah, it's going to be a great time. So, John, get back to the fam, my friend. Thank you so damn much for being here. I truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime. Right. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. That was today's show. I loved it. I don't know what you guys think. It was an impromptu show, but damn, that was so much freaking fun. Rather and Mike couldn't be here because they were both working, but I know it's a conversation that I wish they probably wish they were here for, because that was very, very cool. I mean, dude, we had John Greenwald, we had Mick West, we had Zach Saichi, we had Jazz Shaw, running the gamut. It was amazing. An amazing conversation, a wonderful day of learning, critically thinking, you know, not getting too excited, making sure that this community's standards have raised. You know, it can't be blurry video anymore. It can't be just with a story anymore. It doesn't matter if it's an hour long or 30 seconds. We want the data. We want the facts. We want it to be real, but we're also not going to just take any video. It's got to be a game changer. It's got to be something with 2 angles, something that is definitively, you know, displaying one of the 5 observables that we constantly talk about all the time as a community. So this was fun. This was a lot of fun, and I hope we weren't too hard on NYUAP. You know, I appreciate that you put this out there, that you've taken the heat, that you had to have a skin of leather, my friend. And you know, I appreciate that you're putting out this data, because more data is more damn data, and more data for this community especially is a good thing. It's another way where another video that we can look at, use the things we learned to apply to the next video or the next piece of data that comes down the road. So with all of that said, I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. I want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the tunes that you hear on the show. Don't forget, the show will be uploaded to our podcast, where you can find it on iTunes and Spotify. Check out the Patreon if you haven't already. I think it's the funnest Patreon out there. You support, it's because you love the show. No special access, no secret shows, no early access, all of that stuff. We give you the show. Everyone gets the same show, whether you're a Patreon member or whether you're not. So definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. Thank you all for the super chats, the moderators that we had in the chat, everybody that came by. And oh no, Mick West said that NYUAP officially deleted his account. Oh boy, I hope that's not true. But if it is, I kind of understand it. But he's, oh man, pretty wild stuff. It's a wild world out there. And yeah, so like, subscribe, ring the bell. That way you don't miss shows like this when we go live with these bonus shows that we do. So that, you know, when big news in the community breaks, and this was something worth a hefty discussion. So again, thank you to all the guests, thank you to the moderators, thank you to all of my Patreon members and friends of the show that came to join us. This community is growing. It's a wonderful community. Share this community with people who you think might enjoy this conversation. That is the absolute best thing you can do for the show, is share it. If you love the show, it's the best way to support us. With all of that out of the way, thank you so much for coming aboard and getting weird with us here on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. Until next time, you guys, stay safe out there. Peace. I'm sorry, Stephen Greer's Itchy Flare. Go ahead and post your question right now, and I'll see if I can answer it. I didn't mean to miss a super chat. If I did, I apologize, you guys. I was producing the show by myself today. But yeah, if you can still hear me, please do me a favor. Either DM me the question on Twitter, or if you can, ask right now and I'll answer it. All right. Well, I'm sorry I missed it. I truly didn't mean it. Today was tough because we appreciate it. We truly do. Thank you, Stephen, for the super chat, man. Honestly, I'm sorry I missed it, but thank you. I know you're good sport about it. Unlike you, Matthew Riot. I'm kidding. I love all you guys. Peace. I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
I believe you're enjoying all this. Indeed, Captain. I've never seen him look so happy.
Shut up!
Shh. Shh. Well, what do you know? I finally got the last word.